trial is now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com.
Fixed bayonets, brothers and sisters. This is the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tuman and Paul Burvid. As you know, every Saturday, noon to 1, here on AM 1410 WRMN. You can follow us on the YouTube Live channel for WRMN, and you can also listen in on our stream and the streaming service at WRMN or WRMN1410.com. So it streams there. Comes in real well. I had it plugged in and had it on the AirPlay on my car, and it was really nice. No static like you would get if you're more than 10 miles away from Elgin. So you can still listen to it on your radio, just stream it in. So, as again, I'm going to do the old veterans call out. If you're a veteran and you're a member of Veterans Association or have anything veteran related and you want to get the word out on the air, just give us a call in at 847-931-1410. That's 847-931-1410. And you can text it to 505-926-1410. Or you can hit us up in the comments on the YouTube Live channel. All right, so last week we talked a little bit about the FBI and how now we're seeing some arrests for attempt support of terrorism. And right after that happened, there was another release from our good friends at the FBI from Fort Lewis, Washington, or they call it Lewis Joint Base Lewis McChord, because there's the Air Force base there and the Army base, and they combined them for administrative purposes. But apparently there was 2 active duty military members, Army members, and another former military member that were conspiring to send information to China. And the one thing that got me on this was they hadn't actually sent it, but they had received some payments, and they finally got caught and indicted. And on the indictment, it doesn't say that it's actual classified information. So in the government, in the military, specifically in the military Department of Defense, we have classifications: top secret, secret, and confidential. Those are classified. That is classified information. So if you're going to leak classified information, it's one of those 3. However, there are other categories, and it used to be called simply FOUO, for official use only, also restricted distribution. But they covered all that stuff that isn't one of the top 3 under controlled unclassified information. So that's what they were charging them with leaking, the controlled classified information. And, I went to the stories, and I expected to fully see that these guys were working out of the SCIF, which is a secured classified information facility. It's also called secured compartmentalized information facility up at Fort Lewis. And I was surprised that these guys were only in the field artillery, and they were supply sergeants. So they were in supply. And I'm figuring they did have secret clearances. Well, they give you a clearance for secret. They don't classify you secret, but you have a clearance to view secret information. That doesn't mean that you can view all secret information. You have to have access, and you have to have a purpose for that access. So if you're working in supply, a lot of the numbers of what you have and some of the equipment that you have is classified. So you have to have that clearance to do that. But if you're supply for a field artillery and suddenly you're checking out secret classified information for psychological operations or for special operations, well, that should raise a flag, because you shouldn't be, you're outside of your scope right there. So, Paul, what do you think?
I was looking at this, and the first two, Tian and Duan, they were trying to get information about the Bradley and the Stryker, and that was their deal. And then the third guy was trying to get information. His name was Zhao, and he was trying to get information on the HIMARS. Now, again, as in last week, it's more interesting in the press release at the end of it than anything else because, again, we've got two U.S. attorneys, Jeffrey Barrow and Catherine Riken, but they're also being helped by trial attorneys from the National Security Counterintelligence and Export Control Section. So they're using different people other than the traditional prosecutors on this. And it's making me wonder if this isn't going to be geared up to be a new thing, because it's almost like these people have technical knowledge that the trial attorneys couldn't get up to speed on. And it's almost like these other people are going to handle that part of the prosecution, maybe at trial or in negotiation. So it's really kind of strange. And then it's also weird that postal inspectors and customs people were involved in this. And it's almost like they've got a lot of what we would call background noise that they're developing into something. And it really is unusual because you usually don't get trial attorneys from other units or like I think the last one was from the State Department or something like that. You usually don't get that in a regular prosecution. I mean, you might get it in a tax case, you might get it in a securities fraud case, but it's unusual that you're getting it in these counter-espionage type things. And that's very unusual. And this, to me, tips off something of a greater, maybe a greater plan out there or something. I don't know.
Well, one of the things, and I just heard a news brief that came on this channel specifically about them changing the focus of our Cold War intelligence gathering, which towards the end of the Cold War became a very electronic, all right? Electronic eavesdropping, radios, even, the satellite imagery, other types of imagery, right? But what they dropped off for a while was human intelligence, and the Chinese have always been big on human intelligence. So what need is there to hack a system if you can just convince some guy to go inside and bring the stuff out to you, all right? And when you're talking about the counterintelligence guys, all right? So counterintelligence is funny because there's always been they fall under human intelligence for some reason. And back in the day when I went through the language school, I was an interrogator. And the people that rocked out of the language school, they had trouble with the language school, not because anything. Some people have better, some people are language sponges, some people are language rocks, So I needed a language cement drill to put it through my rock of a brain to get anything. I had to work real hard on it, but I made it through. The guys didn't make it through since they're already set to have like clearances and they had the scores. They would send them to counterintelligence. So they're counterintelligence agents and they have investigative powers. And everyone looks at them chasing down foreign adversaries. They're chasing down, the Russian spies or the Chinese spies or whatever spies. But in reality, their main job is to make sure that we're not just giving away the information. They're there to plug the leaks. And they have investigative powers within the Department of Defense. So if these people were only going to be charged by the Department of Defense for violations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, that's where they would come in. But when you have something, federal crime being committed by a service member or on a base, and then it's the FBI's purview. So the FBI is supposed to be our nationwide counterintelligence defense. So they're supposed to be plugging the gaps on this intelligence. And if they find someone, prosecuting them, but they're also looking for espionage. But the focus should be on our people giving this stuff away, because we have people, it's well known, it's common knowledge. We have people overseas doing the same thing that the Chinese and the Russians are doing to us. It's not like it doesn't happen. So you got the counterintelligence agents in because they know about these spy networks. They know about how the networks work, how this stuff gets leaked, how people get this stuff. But the most important thing on that is, like, if I give you like the tonnage of a Stryker vehicle, how much it weighs, right? Pretty much common knowledge. How many bolts it uses, common knowledge. A lot of this stuff could be found on the open net. We called it the dirty net, but it's on open source. It's open source out there. Anyone can get it if you look for it. But when you start picking up one thing and then another thing and then another thing and putting them together, or extrapolating other information from some things and putting it together, now it gets to the level of classification where you're targeting something. So just because you have, there could be 50 pieces of information separately that are all unclassified. But when you put all that information together in regards to a Stryker, suddenly it becomes classified. Suddenly it gets to the level of secret. Then you got a classified thing. So you need the counterintelligence people to explain to the layman outside of military intelligence why it's important, because they're going to go, well, all they did was it was common knowledge, it was out there, and that's all they did, is release some stuff that's common knowledge. How can you charge someone with theft if it's already out there? If it's already, someone already gave it away, you just give it away to someone else. Is that it? So where it gets to that is, like I said, rather than hack a system, if you get someone to bring that out, and if you have specific information that you want, that you're putting all together, it becomes classified. A story, one of my guys, they asked us to do an open source assessment of Georgia, not the state of Georgia, but the country of Georgia. And my guy had really good knowledge of Eastern European languages, excellent knowledge. And he accessed all the open source on the Eastern European websites, not just US websites. And he got so much information, and he put it together in this very good report, because that's what he did in civilian life. He could do reports, he could organize stuff and everything. And he organized it great. He put these dossiers together on these people. And when he briefed it, they classified his briefing as top secret. And they took his computer away from him, his personal computer, because we had to do this on our own internet. They took it away from him. They degaussed it, just wiped it, just took the giant magnet and wiped out that hard drive. And they took his report that he did, and they classified it above a level that he had access for. And so now you got these guys there, and they're like, one of the things they were doing is they're pulling hard drives. Now, they are supply sergeants within a Stryker brigade. Right? So they're with the field artillery, but they're with the Stryker brigade. And they have access to the property books. Now, property book is just a catalog of all the property in that entire brigade and in the division, right? So all the property's there, and it's all cataloged, and there's code numbers for it. They call it national NSN numbers and national security number, national stock number. So everything's got a national stock number and then a serial number, and then the amount of it and how many are there and whether it's in good condition, everything else, how many times it's been repaired. That stuff's all on a database. It's all on these hard drives. As they update the systems, and move over to a new system, a smaller computer. As we know, every 18 months, these computers are doubling speed and capacity. So the Army's going to upgrade them too to keep up with the enemy, right? And so what happens now is they got all these hard drives laying around, which are classified kind of at a secret level, but people, they've been laying around. So these guys, the operatives that are looking for this, all right, they say, hey, those are just useless hard drives. You know, they're just going to junk them. They're just going to throw them out. I'll give you $1,400 for them. And these guys are like, hey, no one's looked at this stuff in a while. It's gathering dust on the shelves. So they're going to ship that out, hoping that they'll get discharged before these things show up, or that no one will count them in the next property. And the next time a commander takes over and they go through all the property. So there's where you get it. There's where it's important, you know. And these guys, a little guy, but he might just have that one piece. He might have one piece, but they're not doing it to just these two guys. These aren't the only two guys. They're hitting everyone across the, you know, lots of people. They identify weak links. They identify people that they think will be susceptible, and for reasons, money, because money, sex, you know, that's always the honeypot one, the sex one, right? Power, prestige, or just because they don't like their boss, or maybe they like the country more than they're serving in, you know? I forgot the word for that. I should know it. I should be dragged in. I'll remember it later. Ideological. There's ideology doesn't match, you know. And all right, so back in the day, we had a problem in the National Guard and the reserves. They would recruit these guys, and this is going back to domestic terrorism, right? So the gangs would recruit these kids. And these kids normally didn't have much criminal record or anything. And since they didn't have a criminal record and they're like 16 or 17, they would recruit them to join the military, like mostly the reserve and guard, because you're not going to go overseas, right? So they would go to basic training and they would get some either infantry combat training or how to use the radios or whatever training. And then they would never show up for drill again, because they just took the training and they're recruited by these reserves. Well, an ideological person, right? They can recruit them to join the military, to get this training, right? To get the training. And then once they're in, they're their conduit. They are their faucet of information. And no one ever really knows until it's too late. So, and the way you would think that the background checks for the clearances would alleviate that. But there are flaws in that, massive flaws, massive delays, unbelievable stuff, because it's become artificial intelligence. And an 18-year-old kid going into the military who has no jobs, never had a job, went to the same school, lived in the same place, joins the military. He's going to go military intelligence. He fills out his SF-83. It takes him about 10 seconds, all right? And then it goes through, the first thing it does is go through the computer and they look for red flags. And of course there's no red flags. So they send out a guy to interview his third grade teacher. No one says anything bad about him because he was a homebody. No one talked to him. That doesn't raise any red flags. And inside of 6 months, he's got a top secret security clearance. Because he's got no life experience, which is perfect. Because they say, well, nothing said he would do this. But some guy with long list of life experiences that joins the Army later in life, or maybe moved around a lot while he was a kid, because you have to go back 10 years on the secret. You got to go back 10 years of your life, right? So they that raises a lot of red flags. And these guys that they have more visibility on and everything, it could take them 3 years to get a top secret clearance. So guys that you can actually look at and say, oh, this guy's honest as heck, he's proven it, right? They're waiting. And the guy that you have no idea of, except that the artificial intelligence in the computer didn't raise any red flags, so they just gave him the clearance. Now you got those sleepers in there. And there's where you have to have the counterintelligence guy to articulate that, especially to a jury of laymen. Did I go too long on that, Paul?
No, that's good.
Yeah. So now what they're going to do is, you remember with Peyton, what was his name? Manning?
Yeah.
But he changed his name to a girly name or whatever. There's one of those kids, all right, that was 18 years old, that had zero life experience, that, boop, they don't check it. No one goes in depth to check his social media or to talk to his peers, his 16-year-old peers or anything that were his friends, that might say, well, this kid was a real ideological psycho in school, right? But his teachers didn't know it because they never talked to him. Boom. He gets the computer, artificial intelligence, no red flag, give him top secret clearance. Boom. He walks out with all this classified information, sells it. All right? Was there anything in his past that would say it? There may have been, but there wasn't really enough to go on for the computer. So what did they do? They put down all sorts of draconian things rather than go back and do a better background check on the people, a better check for access, especially ideological, right? Ideological, a better check on that stuff. They make it so draconian for everyone that's already working to get access to the information. And the thing was that they pulled that access out of military intelligence and they gave it to the communications. And communications controlled who had access, not who was read on for it, but who could get access to the SIPR nets and everything. And that was backlogged for like 9 months. So you could be sitting there, qualified, got everything, and now you're waiting to do your job, and you got to wait 9 months for the communications people to give it to you. And they just went draconian on that, which puts us back and puts us behind the 8 ball with our adversaries, because and I'm going to, when we get back, we're going to break soon?
We got about a
few minutes.
40 seconds.
Okay, so when we get back, I'm going to roll this into terrorism. And how it applies, because you'd be surprised. What do you think, Paul?
I think it's a good idea.
All right. So, no, I'm trying not to go on where I'm dropping classified information. There's like procedures, because the main protection of this information is not the information itself so much,
but how to find it.
Is how to find it and how we got it. Our sources and our methods to get this information. The information could be like, oh, everyone knew that was there, but we got proof because we used such and such source, such and such method. All right, here we go. See you back in a couple minutes. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Scilink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo, dot, November, Echo, Tango.
At School of Rock, we've got something for everyone. We're located at 353 South Randall Road in Elgin, Illinois. For teens 12 to 18, our performance program prepares students for live shows at real rock venues. For ages 8 to 12, Rock 101 helps young musicians start their journey with private lessons and group rehearsals. Our rookies aged 6 to 7 explore instruments through fun games, while Little Wing, ages 4 to 5, introduces preschoolers to the basics of rock and roll music. And for adults 18 plus, we've got an exciting adult performance program for all skill levels, from beginners to experienced musicians. Visit the website at elgin.schoolofrock.com to sign up for a free trial. We start pre-enrollments in January, targeting a mid-February open. Unleash your inner rock star. Join us at School of Rock and let's make some noise.
I am a non-attorney spokesperson representing a team of lawyers who help people that have been injured or wronged. If you've been involved in a serious car, truck, or motorcycle accident or injured at work, you have rights, and you may be entitled to money for your suffering. Don't accept an offer you get from an insurance company until you talk to a lawyer. And we represent some of the best personal injury lawyers you can find. Tough lawyers that will fight to win your case. And they're so good they stake their reputation on it by only getting paid if you win. So if you've been in a serious car, truck, or motorcycle accident or hurt on the job, find out today for free what kind of compensation you may be entitled to. Call the legal helpline right now.
800-257-3148. 800-257-3148. 800-257-3148. That's 800-257-3148.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough. But if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. The Alzheimer's Association provides care, support, and research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube live channel.
Yeah.
Hey, Fix Banettes, brothers and sisters, we're back for the second half of the Chief Guard of the Republic radio show with your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvitt. Hey, Paul, do you remember when Cleveland Dennis asked us about the guy that got rounded up by the feds up here in Elgin?
I do. Yeah, it was about a month ago, not even.
Yeah. So I don't want to mention the name, the gentleman who got rounded up by the guys, the federal officers. But Dennis, so you know, because you asked what happened with him, the only thing I could really tell you is that he was processed and he was sent to an ICE detention facility in Indiana. They used the Clay County Jail in Brazil, Indiana. So he's there. Last I knew, he was there, and his family could bond, I guess, get an ICE bond if it's set. But they didn't go in there to get him. They went in there to get his stepson, and it was the U.S. Marshals. So the stepson was wanted on a warrant. So it wasn't really a raid, it was a service of a warrant. So the stepson had resided there. So when they got the warrant, they had the right, through that arrest warrant, knowing that that was that kid's, where he resided, to search the house. And they find the guy up hiding in the attic, you know, the male of the house, who should have answered the door. So he's cowering in the attic, and the federal marshals went, "Oh, I wonder why he's hiding." and then they ran him, and there was the deportation order out on him. So then they called ICE. So had he not had a poorly behaving stepson, they probably would have never rounded him up. Or he would have been one of the last ones. Oh, he worked for 20 years here. And just to go off on that is like, okay, he worked for 20 years here. Under whose Social Security number was he paying the taxes? So who benefited from that, right? Are they going to collect that money back from Social Security that he paid in and put it into a general fund, or is it all going to be under that number that he paid in under? And again, whose number was that? And if he wasn't paying taxes and he was working for a construction firm that didn't do the proper things, who's going to go to jail for that, for hiring him and keeping him employed on that? So, yeah, no, it's not really a victimless crime.
I have an interesting story about that, and I don't want to use an actual name, okay? But there was a TV show called Chips.
Yes.
And there was a character called Ponch, okay? And he was played by an actor who had a name. And I'll just abbreviate it, EE, okay? Yes. And I was working election duty with my partner, Carol, who is partially Hispanic. And we were working in Berwyn area, okay? And I think it was, we walked into the New Century School, okay?
All right.
And as soon as we hit the door, one of the guys said, "Are you the police?" And I said, "No, we're state's attorneys." And they go, "Well, you'll be wanting to go see Ponch, okay?"
Yes.
And I said, "Okay." And there was a real long hall that we went down, and then we turned, and there was an even longer hall, and we got into the front of where the voting area was. And they go, "Who are you?" And I said, "We're state's attorneys." And they go, again, "You'll be wanting to see Ponch," which the real name was EE, as it were, okay? So we go up, and there's a guy sitting behind the desk, and I said, "Everybody's telling me we'd be wanting to see Ponch." And he said, "Well, I'm Ponch." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "I've been working for 20 years, and I know there's a man working at Zenith that's been working under my identity as Ponch, EE." And he goes, "He came in to vote today, and he said, 'I'm Ponch, I want to vote.'" And he goes, "You're not Ponch, I'm Ponch." And he grabbed him, and then they ripped the voting ballot, and the guy ran out the door. So, if you're here illegally, maybe don't do a crime. You know what I'm saying? And it was kind of funny.
Yeah. So, okay, so that is stuff that I would almost call on a level of domestic terrorism. So, you know what the intent of terrorism used as an act of war, right? What the intent of it is.
Fear. Yes, it's to instill fear and anxiety in people.
Well, in doing that, the actual end thing is to overturn a regime, to replace a regime, to overrun it, to overturn it. And when you create these acts of terrorism, which aren't overt actions of war, firebombing Dresden, yes, an act of terrorism, yeah, terrorism, but it was actually during war, so they kind of knew it was coming. There was kind of nothing they could really do about it. But when you have a guy like the shoe bomber, right? The shoe bomber. This is a small act of terrorism. And now you got to take off your shoes, and they got to wipe it with some material to see if you got explosives in your shoe or whatever, right? You can't go, you got to take your shoes off, all this stuff. What it's doing is it's creating not just an inconvenience, but for everything they do, the government's going to try to prevent that. And when they try to prevent it, they have the government never does anything in partials. They always go draconian, overboard, massively overboard. And it's not just an inconvenience. It could cost you money, time, it could destroy your business, but they're trying to protect the overall public. That's like protect everyone. And after a point, everyone gets so upset with the draconian rules of the government where they're trying to protect people, but the more draconian rules you could put in, the more you direct those rules, the more power you have. It's a vicious circle on that. The people get tired of that. They'll get tired of the overwhelming kind of dictatorship of government telling you how to live your life completely, and they'll overthrow that government, or they won't fight for that government anymore. Then the enemy that's been creating all these little actions that make the government take draconian methods, right? They win because they come in and they replace that government because everyone's looking and says, well, even these guys aren't that bad. So they could be okay. And their ultimate goal is to overthrow by causing the government. So everything they do like that affects you. So when it comes to them grabbing data by using the human thing, they know that rather than prevent the ability for these guys to get the information out, they're preventing people from getting to use the information, which puts us behind, all right? So anything like this could be considered an act of terrorism. As we know with gun laws, right? So I'm a big Second Amendment guy. I'm such a big Second Amendment guy that I believe that the Second Amendment should be interpreted as a well-regulated militia, which is every person in the United States that is a citizen should be required to carry a firearm. Unless you're a convicted felon, then you should be required to wear a big F on your chest so everyone knows you're a convicted felon. That's just me, so I'm kind of overboard with that. But when you have these mass shootings and some guy gets a sporting rifle, I believe assault rifles are just the name. It's a terrorist act. Assault, it sounds bad, right? Assault. Sporting doesn't sound bad. So it's a matter of the words you use. So then they take that assault rifle thing and they go, oh, we're going to protect the whole public by banning them. Does it protect the public? No. Because guess what? People that are going to commit these acts and do it, they don't care about the law. They're not all Batman. Remember, Batman wouldn't even park illegally in an emergency.
That's true.
All right. As a police officer, there are two places I wouldn't park my squad car: handicap parking or on a fire hydrant. I'll park in a bus stop. But handicapped or a fire hydrant, I wouldn't do it. All right. I'll block the whole road. Okay. But there are people that won't obey anything, and they're the people you got to worry about. So they put these background checks in. And what did the background checks do? They flat out fail. Hunter Biden. How did the background checks work with him? They didn't. All right. So he was able to purchase a gun illegally, but because he lied about it. So, what are the other? So the government will use that to pass the draconian laws, and everyone will say, oh, they're just trying to protect us. Like they say, if it saves one child. Well, okay. But how many children can you do the reverse of that, right? So when you pass a draconian law, looking at like lockdowns and everything, oh, this is where I get a thing against elitists, right? The elitists out there. They're going to tell me how to live my life or how I need to live my life because they're smarter than me. They're smarter than me. There's a lot of people that are smarter than me. But when I go into a grocery store and I'm not sick and I'm not feeling sick and I don't care, and some stock boy, some 50-year-old stock boy comes screaming at me that I can't purchase my groceries because I'm not wearing a mask. I'm like, oh, what who put this guy in charge, right? But The elitists say, oh, we could do this, and it's a controlled thing. It's overbearing. They make the law. They make these overruling things. But can you prove that those masks didn't kill people? And if they killed one child, were they worth it? Because a lot of people were wearing these things improperly, wearing them over and over, sharing them, and they became infected with bacteria. Kids are breathing in the bacteria, and then kids die from pneumonia. So if the mask killed one person, are they worth it? But no one ever sees that correlation. The greater benefit. Is the greater benefit always a good thing? No, it's not.
They're always worried about the greater good instead of what is good.
Yeah, well, that's the best way I've ever heard it put, Paul. Can you say that again?
Yeah, they're always worried about the greater good instead of what is good.
That's right. And you shouldn't be afraid of doing the right thing all the time. Doing the right thing all the time, unless it affects your personal or your family's safety. It's not right to commit murder to kill someone else, but there's self-defense. All right? Preemptive self-defense, however, that's where you get into in depth to it. And that's where we get to governments doing preemptive attacks and preemptive self-defense, taking out powers that haven't done anything yet. And I think we were talking about that last week with the FBI in these cases, where we're talking about attempt possession of a controlled substance and attempt material support for a terrorist agency. Attempt. They didn't actually do it. They attempted to. And then they're not even showing an act in furtherance. They're showing, well, they thought about doing an act in furtherance, or they planned to do an act in furtherance. They got all right, so if you have conspiracy, right, to rob a bank, you got three people saying, well, we're going to rob a bank. Well, what are we going to need? We're going to need a stolen car. So some guy goes on and steals a car. That's an act in furtherance, right?
Right.
But if they go, well, we're going to rob a bank. Well, what are we going to need? Well, we should steal a car. And then they lock them up for conspiracy because they said they should steal a car. That's not an act in furtherance. That's a thought. That's free speech. But if you have, here's another thing, all right? If you have a challenged person, a very challenged, mentally challenged person, or intellectually challenged person, and maybe someone won't agree with this, but I don't remember the scientific term, but it's pinhead syndrome. So the person is profoundly challenged, both mentally and intellectually. But he was an adult, like 16 years old, not adult, but grown. He was grown, and he could handle certain mechanical functions. So the Latin kings were using this guy as a shooter. So in that case, if you said shoot a guy, right, and this kid's holding the gun, and you have control over him, that's kind of like, you're as a prosecutor there, how would you prosecute the guy that told the pinhead, I'm sorry for the term, the pinhead kid to shoot the guy?
That's what we used to call a criminal enterprise. That's or an accessory before the fact, an accessory after the fact, an accessory to the fact. Like years ago when they're forward going a car and you grab them all, they'd all give you statements and none of them were the shooter, but you knew that one of them was because somebody got shot. So then you get them all on an accountability theory because they were all there at the same time and knew. So he would be there on an accountability theory as prompting the guy. And in many ways, he would be the actual ringleader because he got the poor mentally challenged person to do his bidding.
Yeah. I got off on a tangent there. But so, again, how, instead of like throwing this TSA up there, right? Throwing the TSA up there and throwing now we have the thing called the real ID. And soon you won't be able to fly even domestically unless you show ID. Back in the day, you didn't need to show ID to fly domestically. You just needed the ticket. Here's my ticket, let me on. Because you had freedom of travel. That's your right. You're a U.S. citizen. Now you got to have this real ID to prove you are. Well, I got a driver's license, and supposedly by federal law, the only people that could drive in the Department of Transportation in the United States are someone with a U.S. driver's license, except for the NAFTA drivers, right? So now the states start giving out driver's license in violation of that to illegal aliens. So they got a driver's license, so should you let them on a plane? Well, because, but I got to go get a real ID. I got to jump through hoops to get a real ID because the state went and gave driver's licenses to people that weren't entitled to them. So in that case, I would say, I would want to send a bill for my time. For the $20 they're going to charge me for that ID card to the state of Illinois, to Pritzker, and say, here, the only reason I have to get this is because you gave out driver's licenses to illegal aliens. So here's my bill, $150. What does he charge? What do you think if he was actually working as a high-level lawyer, he would charge an hour?
At least $650, maybe more an hour.
All right, here's $650 bill for my time. It's not unreasonable because that's what you would charge. But we don't have enough people to do that, to stand up for that. We're not going to have like 100 people buy out an airline, or 200. Let's say 200 people buy out a flight, right? They got a whole flight, they got tickets, and none of them have a real ID, and they show up with not a real ID. And Southwest says, well, we can't let you on the plane, but I'm a U.S. citizen. Well, you need a real ID or a passport to go, I got a driver's license. Federal law says you can only have that. So we're not going to have actions like that because it's not valuable to our time because we have jobs, we work, we have other things to do.
We have lives, and those people just have concepts.
Concepts, yeah. That's another good one. I like that. And we have lives, they have concepts. So all I could say, and I'm not trying to be political about this, but when any government agency or leader shoots for another overbearing regulation on everybody to protect one person, right? You don't vote for that guy ever. Because they're elitist. I'll protect you all. Here, sooner or later, it'll be no one can leave your house. We'll deliver Meals on Wheels to you with what we want you to eat. So don't leave your house. That way you won't get killed in traffic. Okay.
You'll just be dead of boredom then.
Yeah. So I'm so then the other thing, and this falls on everyone, right? So you hear about living off the grid, right? And people are afraid that their cell phones are tracking them and they shouldn't have the right to do this and they shouldn't have the right to collect information on you, but people freely give it to them, absolutely freely give it to them. I freely give out my information, right? It's all out there because I've given up because you would really have to try hard to get all your stuff wiped out. And to get all your stuff wiped out, guess what you would have to do? Give your information to the person that wipes it out. And if you don't think they keep a database, you're wrong. So I had a couple car problems that involved transmissions. And guess what keeps coming up on my Facebook videos leads? Transmissions. These guys are fixing this transmission, they're fixing that transmission. I never looked at this stuff. Transmissions. They kind of confuse me, especially the automatics. I guess if I looked at them more, the regular engine I could do. So I really had no interest, but I had a problem with my transmissions, right? So that information, when I put in the information, the car manufacturer's webpage, right? And I'm logged on there, which means I've given them information. They know what type of cars I got. My insurance company has that. And I logged in and I says, well, I'm not getting this transmission problem fixed. And then all of a sudden, boom, how did Facebook get that stuff? You know, it's all shared. It's very hard for you to keep your information off of there. On top of that, it's called phishing. People give this stuff away, right? So you look at your Facebook or any other social media page, and it says, you know, it asks you just generally out there, someone's posting it. So I got 3 minutes. I could do this, right? 3 minutes. It goes, what's your gemstone for your birth month? And people put in, oh, I'm Sapphire. And they're like, oh, that's September. Boom. And they put your name or your Facebook login, your Facebook personality, and they put that in September birth month, right? And then they say, well, what was your mother's maiden name? And your mother's maiden name, give us that information. We'll tell you whether you'll be a millionaire in a year. And people give that stuff out, but all that information is gathered, and then they extrapolate it. So individually, my birth month isn't classified, right? But you add everything together, and you got all what the Army would call personal identifiable information, all right? And that's like HIPAA stuff, right? So if you got that information on someone, you go start trying to access bank accounts, trying to take out loans in their name, trying to, sell their house without their knowledge. You get all that information, but you gather it up and then you extrapolate stuff. Well, he said this Sapphire was his birth month stone, so he's born in September, and then the first 2 days of your month mean that you're this spirit animal. And they extrapolate all the information, they put it together, and they got a pretty good dossier on you if they go to target you. So it's almost impossible to not let that happen, but you can not make it easy for them and don't give it away for free. Or like I just like to say, lie to them on social media. I was born in January 1st. I'm 79 years old. Or I'm 354 and still collecting Social Security. That was, that's insane. That's insane. All right, so
don't give too much information out.
Only give it to legit sources, all right, for legitimate reasons. Don't get stuck by this. Don't get bitten in the back. And when you see these feeds on there, think back a couple steps to see how they got that information. I figured it out. Okay, that was it. That was from the car manufacturer. All right, we'll see you next week on Chief Guard of the Republic, every Saturday, noon to 1. Want to read some action-packed, exciting pulp fiction? Read the works of Michael Tooman, now featuring the international crime thriller, I Married a Bot Madam. Available on Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle editions. The paperback is also available at other book retailers. Check out Michael Tooman's webpage at Silink.net. That's Papa, Sierra, Yankee, Lima, India, November, Kilo, November, Echo, Tango. Join your co-hosts Mike Tooman and Paul Burvid on our weekly radio hour, Chief Guard of the Republic, where we talk about all things national security, defense, personal security, safety, and dealing with law enforcement situations. Call in 847-931-1410. Ask us questions. We will get you answers. Every week, Saturday, noon to 1 on 1410 AM WRMN Elgin. Streaming on WRMN1410.com. Chat with us on WRMN's YouTube Live channel.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 1 o'clock.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Health officials in New Mexico say actor Gene Hackman died of heart disease with complications from Alzheimer's. It happened a week after his wife died of unrelated health problems. New Mexico Chief Medical Examiner Dr. Heather Jarrell.
The cause of death for Miss Betsy Hackman, aged 65 years, is hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. The manner of death is natural. Autopsy examination and full body postmortem CT demonstrated no findings of trauma internally or externally.
Hackman, in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's, apparently was unaware that his wife had passed away. U.S. employers added a solid 151,000 jobs last month.
These numbers came in 9,000 lower than the anticipated 160,000, yet the Labor Department also reported hiring was up from a revised 125,000 in January. The unemployment rate ticked up 0.1% to 4.1 as the number of jobless Americans rose by 203,000.
That is correspondent George Williams reporting. Wyoming's Freedom Caucus is now flexing its political muscle. We get more details in this report from Keith Peters.
Freedom Caucus leaders in the Wyoming House of Representatives are claiming victory after a legislative session in which most of their priorities got passed. Wyoming's the first state where a Freedom Caucus has taken control of a state house chamber. Republican Governor Mark Gordon has signed 3 of the conservative lawmakers' top 5 bills into law. They include a steep property tax cut, a ban on diversity programs in government, and non-recognition of driver's licenses issued to unauthorized immigrants.
And that report from correspondent Keith Peters. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-504-8790. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-504-8790. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-504-8790.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center, may not be available in all states.
Correspondent Donna Warder reports on the rededication of Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg, named in honor of Confederate General Braxton Bragg, was renamed Fort Liberty in 2023 during a drive to remove symbols of the Confederacy from public spaces. Now the North Carolina Army installation is back to Fort Bragg, but it's in honor of someone else named Bragg.
Fort Bragg is a place where ordinary people transform into heroes. Ordinary people like Private First Class Roland L. Bragg.
Army Private First Class Roland L. Bragg was a World War II paratrooper and a Silver Star recipient from Maine. I'm Donna Warder.
On Wall Street Friday, stocks rose by the closing bell. The S&P 500 declined by 0.6% of its value. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up by 0.5%. Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. Turns out 2025 is not the year for legalized sports betting in Georgia, after all. Efforts to send a state constitutional amendment to voters failed, as neither the amendment nor a bill laying out details ever came to a vote in the state legislature. Thursday was the deadline for each Georgia chamber to pass its own legislation to the opposite chamber. The measures still could be revived in the final month of the session, but it's much less likely. Voters in Missouri narrowly approved sports betting in a 2024 referendum, making it the 39th state to legalize the practice. Rich Thomason reporting. A one-of-a-kind baseball card featuring Pittsburgh Pirates ace Paul Skeens is on its way to auction. An 11-year-old in the Los Angeles area found that card in a pack he got as a Christmas present, and experts say the card could go for millions at auction. More of these stories at townhall.com.
Do you own an annuity, either fixed rate, indexed, or variable? Are you paying high fees and getting low returns? If so, Annuity General would like you to have this free book to learn the pitfalls and mistakes of buying an annuity. The Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers contains the little-known truths about annuities, like how to help reduce your fees and increase retirement income. And it's free. That's right, free. As a bonus, we'll also throw in a free annuity rate report just for calling. We researched over 1,000 annuities and summarized rates and benefits from financially strong insurers. You get annuity do's and don'ts for baby boomers and the annuity rate report, both absolutely free for calling Annuity General today. Hurry, supplies are limited. Call now.
800-760-1845. 800-760-1845. 800-760-1845. That's 800-760-1845.
Welcome to the Jeff Michaels Show, where we ask poignant questions, important questions, thought-provoking questions, like what did Donald Trump and the American people both have in common after this last election cycle? They both dodged a bullet. And now, here's Jeff Michaels.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome, one and all. It's Jeff Michaels and the Jeff Michaels Show for Saturday, March 8th, 2025. All brought to you over the airwaves and streaming. They aren't also waves, are they? What are they then? Streaming what's? Well, whatever they are, it's 1410 WRMN, the talk of the Fox Valley. This last week's news cycle was basically dominated by two stories. The Ukraine war and Zelensky's dust up with Trump, quickly then put aside momentarily by the president's State of the Union speech light and the Democrat response thereto during and after. Now, I'm not talking about the official Democratic response, which was this time delivered by New Michigan Senator Elissa Slotkin, or is it Elise? I have an aunt and a cousin with each name, so I get them confused all the time. Have for years, even to them. Anyway, talking about the other party's response to the State of the Union speech, this year it's the Democrats making that other response. I just think it's kind of stupid. Never understood what it was supposed to accomplish. And it's always an up-and-comer. And I can't say I ever remember that up-and-comer ever upping and coming much further than they did or than they were when they gave their response to the State of the Union speech. In fact, I have a bigger problem with the fact that they send them the speech ahead of time. I mean, if you're an elected official, a high office official like senator, governor, congressman, president, aren't you supposed to be able to respond to things on the fly? Why even do it then? Might as well send it to them a week ahead of time. I mean, why just a day? What I'm going to focus on in particular are the reactions, a few reactions by some of the leaders, I guess you could say the leaders of today's Democrat Party, like Elizabeth Warren and Senator Adam Schiff. These are all off-the-cuff comments made usually into their cell phones. You think Kamala made word salads? Oh, my God. Are the reactions, responses, and so on of some of the supposed leaders of the Democrat Party today? I know they really don't have one. They don't have one. But the ones that could possibly be the closest to falling those slots right now, going to hear some of their responses. Kamala was the pioneer. She was the original chef. No doubt about that. They are taking it to a whole new level because they have nothing to say but bad Trump. Still all they got? I don't think they're going to make too much headway. But that's just me. All the supposed leaders of the Democrat Party today coming up here, all showing just how lost they are. Not just for words, but in general. For direction. For the president's State of the Union speech light. Wasn't really a State of the Union speech. He's only been in there for about 6 weeks, but had every bit the appearance, pomp, and circumstance, and so on. And it was fun. You know, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about the speech itself because it's been pretty exhausted by now. And I've never thought of Trump as any kind of a great speaker. In fact, who was a better speaker than Barack Obama? But he's certainly a lot more polished than he was first time around. He seems to have overcome a lot of the early little schisms that he had. Remember he had that weird breathing thing? He kind of would do that in between sentences. I don't know, it kind of was weird. And he had all kinds of weird inflections. Most of that seems to have gone away. Not that that should matter. We're talking about form over substance, or vice versa. His form may not be that great, but boy, this last speech had a lot of substance. But all that aside, this was a great speech, and the Democrats knew it. The side story of this, and the one we're going to spend some more time on, is how much more exposed the Democrats have become as to just how lost they are. Just how without a leader of any kind, a trendsetter. In fact, Tim Walz was interviewed by somebody. I guess his 15 minutes of fame has been extended a little bit. And he was asked, who is the leader of the Democrat Party right now? To which he responded, the American people. Probably the best answer he could have given. But the speech was indeed uplifting. It was hopeful. And CBS News did a poll. CBS News, 60 Minutes, doctoring up things and blah, blah, blah. Their poll, next day, 76% positive, 24% negative. 76% from CBS News, no less. It was upbeat. It had a lot of moving moments, and they didn't seem like contrived or made up or theatrically driven or presented type moments, if you know what I mean. Did a great job touting his many and vast accomplishments that have been accomplished so far in such a short amount of time. And who couldn't feel it when he had that whole thing with the 13-year-old boy who had brain cancer, who was supposed to not make it past age 6. Here he was, I think, 13, and they made him an honorary Secret Service agent. That was a wonderful moment. Of course, one of the many that we'll talk about here where the Democrats did not flinch, didn't clap, didn't stand up, didn't smile, didn't do anything, sat there as frozen as carbone in the meat truck. And I guarantee you it's going to take them a lot longer than 2 days to thaw out. And those stupid signs they were holding up, what was the point of that? Looked like some kind of a kid's game show. I mean, they look like children. They are children. They think now, or they say now, that having Donald Trump as president makes us the embarrassment of the world. I think one of our two major political parties behaving like spoiled little brats, and that's not an exaggeration, is what makes us the embarrassment of the world. And what was with Ilhan Omar's hijab? Looked like an abstract map of the Middle East. The best part for sure, at least for me, all night, was him telling them off. When he brought up all the warfare stuff and said, by the way, how did that work out? Kind of stuck it back in their face. How could you not enjoy such a mocking? Couldn't happen to a better bunch of wokesters. Tell you what else he did that was brilliant. He set them up initially, kind of dared them not to clap and acknowledge anything or show anything nice. And they took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. What's become clear, one thing that is parallel and consistent with both the media and Democrats alike, whenever President Trump is telling a positive story, it brings out the worst in all of them. And it's still fun to watch. And they're showing no signs of letting up anytime soon. Which can, of course, be translated as they show no sign of learning anything anytime soon. Gaining any self-awareness. When we come back, we'll start hearing some of these clips, mostly from the politicians you know and love and hear every day, and one from a media person who probably shouldn't be employed anymore as a result of saying this.
Jeff Michaels will be back in a moment. I wanted to nominate him for Secretary of Common Sense, but he has too many skeletons in his closet. So he'll just keep talking to you every Saturday afternoon on 1410 WRMN.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
As a fan, you know all the important sports cliches. And when you save money by bundling your home and auto with Progressive, you can get out there and give it 110%, even though that's mathematically impossible. And remember, failure is not an option. Well, it's always an option, just not a good one. But you're not worried because you've got ice in your veins. You're on fire. How can both of those things be true at the same time? Well, that's between you and your doctor. So get out there and leave it all on the field. Leave what? Who cares? Just leave it and save with a bundle from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Welcome back to the Jeff Michaels Show. What's the difference between a Democrat and a catfish? One's an ugly, scum-sucking bottom feeder, and the other is a fish.
My wife thinks that's a mean one. This is war, damn it. One of my 5 favorite songs of all time. Roxy Music, Love is the Drug, 1975. Year I went to college. Quick story about another song from that same year, 1975, year I went to college. In fact, a lot bigger song than that recently just caused me some major depression. Sitting home one night watching TV a few years ago, and on comes a commercial with a catchy jingle for a new diabetes drug called Ozempic. Now they've got TV and radio commercials all over the place. I'm sure you've heard it.
Do diabetes?
So imagine how depressed I became when I realized some gargantuan ad agency decided best to use a top 10 song from that same year to appeal to type 2 diabetics. Of course, they used all middle-aged actors, all dancing around with physiques just like mine, all looking so happy to be giving themselves a shot in their stomach every week. So, of course, every time I see or hear an Ozempic commercial, I'm reminded that one of the biggest hits from the year I went to college is now being used to target the most likely users of diabetes medications. But I digress. You know who Nicole Wallace is, right? She's that despicable talking head on MSNBC. The fact that she's still employed by NBC Universal today is a travesty. I get it that the media has only bad Trump, resist Trump, no matter what, no matter when, as the only way they can comment or report on anything he does or says. Still, this is how she chose to respond to, comment on, the part of the speech when Trump talked about the 13-year-old boy who had survived cancer, going on 6 years now, always wanted to be a cop, and was made in front of everybody an honorary Secret Service member. And how cool is that? And to see the look in the kid's face and his dad there, it was something. This is how Nicole Wallace chose to respond to it.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ.
What do you mean you let yourself feel joy for DJ? You mean you let yourself feel joy even though it was a Donald Trump thing? Does that mean you can't really take it seriously as you would if it was happening at a Joe Biden State of the Union as opposed to a Donald Trump-like event?
And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide.
She hopes he isn't one of the 6 who lose their life to suicide. How do you respond to a comment like that in any context? Much less one that's being used to take a nice moment in a Donald Trump speech to Congress and twist it back to January 6th. First of all, Nicole, let me ask you a question. 77 or so million people voted for Donald Trump. How many of them do you think didn't know about January 6th? Didn't know there was a commission and all this stuff? I don't mean knew all the gritty details, but how many of those people who voted for him do you think didn't know about any of these January 6th details? And for a good 4 years. How many would you guess? How about 0? And they still voted for him. So what's the point of taking something that has absolutely nothing to do with it And in fact, craps all over it, specifically for the purpose of using it as a political tool to move your agenda forward, to work for you and for what you want, while still doing anything you can at any possible moment to say, Trump bad.
And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
What a reprehensible human being she is. I'm sorry. Not holding back. Why she's still employed there as of today is beyond me, that's for sure. I mean, who says, I'm happy he survived brain cancer. Sure would be a shame if he had to commit suicide because he was protecting the Capitol and the country from Donald Trump's supporters. Is that not what she said? So now how about the leaders, or whoever they are in the Democrat Party? Chuck Schumer is probably as close to one as they get at the moment. I mean, he is, after all, the Senate Minority Leader. I believe that makes him the highest-ranking member of Congress right now, representing the Democrat Party. So he felt the need to go in front of Congress yesterday. Was not officially in session, but thank God the cameras were there rolling.
Mr. President, last night, Donald Trump subjected the American people to a deluge of falsehoods, misrepresentations, and outright lies.
Really, Chucky? Well, nobody wants anybody to lie, so please tell us, what lies did he tell us? What were the untruths that he forced us to listen to? Can you actually give us any specifics, even one?
What Americans heard last night was easily the nastiest, most divisive, most partisan, and most dishonest presidential address in American history.
Somebody needs to tell him that the speech had a 76% positive rating, 24% negative, 76% positive. And that was done by the MAGA crazies at CBS News. Remember the same CBS News that doctored up the Kamala interview? Changed it around so they could try and hide how completely dumb she was? Yes, that's CBS News. 76% positive, 24% negative. And again, where are the specifics? What did he say that was dishonest? What did he say that was misleading? What did he say that was negative? Oh, all right. They were all those things to you all who all had your own reality moment at 1:30 Eastern Time on 11/6, morning of. How about Elizabeth Warren in the Uber on the way home? Take it away, Liz.
So one of the interesting things tonight about Donald Trump's State of the Union address is just how it had layers and layers of ugliness and distraction and crazy stories and stuff that would make a fact checker's head explode.
Really, Liz? Make a fact checker's head explode? Can you tell us one? No, I didn't think so. I would think that'd be the first thing you'd come out with if you had him caught with something.
Why do all that? And I think the big part is because Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress have a plan. And the plan is to cut taxes for billionaires and to make everybody else pay for it. And the best way to slip through a plan like that is so unpopular is to try to throw up one handful of sand after another and hope that nobody will actually see what's happening.
What did she actually say there? Did she say anything of substance at all? Did she say anything that related to anything that Trump actually said in that speech? Did she mention anything specific? Just nasty gobbledygook lefty rhetoric from what I could tell. Up next, Jasmine Crockett with the butterfly eyelashes, who demands to be taken seriously while she's walking out to tell you all the things that Trump said wrong and the lies he told and what a criminal he is.
He up there, he's hearing all kinds of nonsense. And we wasn't going to sit for that. We wouldn't, you know, we showed up, and if he had some sense, then maybe we would have been about that life. But y'all know he ain't got no sense.
Y'all know he ain't got no sense. Yes, that was her opening statement.
So please give some love. This took a little bit of coordinating to do, for sure. We got some cool shirts. We got Madam Williams, who just happens to have the honorary seat. It's not even honorary because she's holding it down, y'all. But the legend himself, John Lewis, that is the seat in which she currently serves. So she honored his legacy. This is the message that she wanted to send today.
Are you catching any of this? No, I couldn't. You can hear Trump still going in the background, too, right? She just walked outside, had a bunch of her friends there and started talking into the microphone.
We got my sis, Andrea Salinas, and she kept it real simple. Resist. That's what we about.
And she doesn't just speak for herself. That's the number one mantra. Resist. Doesn't matter what he says. Doesn't matter what President Trump wants to do. Doesn't matter what he suggests. Resist. They're still holding that over from the last time around. In other words, our TDS ain't never going away. We can't make any kind of debate here now. So we're going to resist no matter what. And we think that's going to get us back in power. And guess what? I agree. Keep resisting.
Where's Maxwell? We got Max. No kings live here, okay?
No kings.
Yeah, we sending
no
a message. We sending a message. We've got President Musk. Y'all saw the camera just flash to him, because this is really his administration.
Isn't that one already getting tired and old? You would think so. They had half a brain, but apparently not. Still calling him President Musk. An advisor who's taken on a job for the president is giving him some great feedback, almost all of which the president is acting upon. Isn't that how it works? Oh, right. You don't like what's coming out of it. And you also don't like that you don't have all that wind at your back like you did 4 years ago, at least your party did, with all the Russia collusion stuff, helping you dodge reality, make things crazy for this administration when it was just trying to understand how to do it in the first place. You got none of that working for you now, do you? That's why you're doing resist. That's why you guys are lost like a blind man wandering around alone in the desert.
And we got another resist. Listen, and mine is let me get you, Jazz.
Shirley Chisholm, the ultimate unbought and unbossed.
That's Jasmine Crockett. Right.
Did you catch any of that at all? From the great state of Texas, Congressman Jasmine Crockett. Got a lot more coming up after the break, including Adam Schiff is probably the best. It's typical Adam Schiff, just what you'd expect. Pathological lies, left and right, up and down. To quote the famous Dennis Prager, he lies with the ease that you and I breathe. That's a literal statement. But what's most amazing, what's most gratifying is watching all of these congressmen, senators, media. They're lost. And nobody seems to be trying to find his way or their way. Few have broken away. Bill Maher was one of the first. Stephen A. Smith, he's been rather vocal lately about his disgust for his party. He hasn't left the party. He sure isn't supporting him these days. I've always loved Stephen A. Smith. I've loved him for his sports and really started to like him as I listened to him talk about politics. And he's a liberal all the way, makes no bones about it. But he's very clear about having only one thing as his guide about anything he thinks or opines about is to make sure, first and foremost, he gets the truth. Which means he's really not a Democrat or a liberal anymore. He's more of a conservative than he wants to admit to himself. Same thing you want to say to a guy like Bill Maher. You want to shake him, and they just don't want to bring it all the way to the end of it. They want to do everything but pull the lever. We're going to pull the lever on a break right now. Be back in just a few and continue with these. And they get even better. Trust me.
Jeff Michaels will be right back at 1410 WRMN. 4Core Biz delivers a critical missing component in the marketplace. Our team of trained experts makes sure you get a full evaluation of your actual coring needs to ensure you're getting the optimum performance out of all of your core bits and machines. Because a cheap core bit is just that, cheap. It costs less but bores far less holes and costs more per hole. Our bits cost a little more but bore you a whole lot more holes. 4 times more, in fact. Give us a shot and we'll send you your bits before you even pay us a dime. Visit us at 4corebiz.com. That's the number 4, COREBIZ.com. Or call 888-831-9557. 4Core Biz.
Here on WRMN AM 1410, we like to keep you informed and in tune to what's happening here in the Fox River Valley and what's going on here on WRMN. We recognize the importance of local radio to be a part of the conversation and to be a part of the community for the community.
You know, we talked about the importance of community theater, but supporting community radio is a big deal too. And, you know, for WRMN, this is a really cool thing that you guys do every day, and a really important thing. You have to have a local media outlet to talk about what's going on in your town. So you guys do a nice job.
Tune in to AM 1410, WRMN. Don't forget, you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/WRMN Radio. Keep in tune and informed on what's happening here in the Fox River Valley, right here on WRMN.
Finding a reputable business shouldn't require luck or chance. But how can you tell who you can trust? Pro tip: the BBB connects people with businesses they can trust. So think of the BBB as the better, check with the BBB first, because better businesses are honest and commit to High Ethical Standards Bureau. That's why they're better. Always look for the sign of a better business and find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Does your car need a shine? At Britain's Touchless Car Wash, they make it quick, easy, and spotless every time. And they're open 24/7 for your convenience. Right now, get a free car wash just for joining their text club. Text BRITT to 30400 and enjoy a free car wash. Visit Britain's Touchless Car Wash at 1923 Larkin Avenue in Elgin or at 555 Willow in West Dundee. Britain's, caring for your car while caring for our community.
Hey, Tammy, I just made an AI fact checker for the show. Do you want to try it out?
Sure. Talk Time with Tammy and Friends is the best show on WRMN.
Oh, Talk Time with Tammy and Friends is the best show on WRMN, huh? What a bold, subjective opinion masquerading as a fact. Sure, I bet you and all 12 of her fans feel that way. While I can confirm the show exists, yay for reality, its best status is completely debatable. And yes, congratulations, it does air Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Let me know when Tammy wins an Emmy or something. Until then, this is a hard nope on objectivity. Grade 310. Fact, Talk Time with Tammy and Friends airs weekdays, Monday, Thursday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. on WRMN. Try again when you want to talk about facts, not fangirling.
I'll work on it.
You better.
Jeff Michaels makes no bones about which way he tilts. As a proud, fair-thinking conservative, he wears his support for the new Republican Party on his shoulder. So much so that he'll think nothing of strutting through downtown Chicago wearing a MAGA hat. But just to be safe, he puts a Cubs head over it.
You're familiar with Ayanna Presley? The bald broad from Boston? Newest member of the squad to stick? Seems to be the most vocal, too, at least, I mean, maybe the second. I don't think anybody's ever going to top AOC from that group, but she tends to run her mouth as well whenever given the opportunity, especially if it's to say Trump bad.
The House floor, I could not stand one more second, tolerate one more second. This man who pardoned January 6th insurrectionists who decimated the very chamber that we are sitting in this moment. This man who has no respect for Congress, does not respect us as a co-equal branch of government, who has put us into a constitutional crisis. This man with his hateful rhetoric and his even more harmful policies.
What harmful policies, Ayanna? Care to elaborate? I assume not.
I went because I wanted to honor my State of the Union or my joint address of Congress guest, Claire from Everett, a probationary federal worker who was damn good at her job at housing and urban development, enforcing fair housing laws. She was fired. She didn't deserve that.
Why didn't she deserve that, Ayanna? Did she report to you? She was probationary. They were all probationary. You know what that means, Ayanna? That means you were under test. You didn't have the job for real. You hadn't been there very long, and it was less than a year. And I happen to know that in the case of the lady she's talking about, she had been there 3 months. 3 months. But nice try, Ayanna.
The work that she did remains unfinished. There are people that will be unhoused.
Unhoused. That's one of their later buzzwords, I believe, right? I think it's maybe circa 2000, 2020, 21, just after George Floyd. That's when we first started hearing the word unhoused. So now there will be people that will be unhoused because of this lady that had been working there 3 months in a probationary status was let go in cost-cutting measures. I think that means she must be unbrained.
Because that work is unfinished, there's housing that will not get built because that work is unfinished, and her life has been completely upended and disrupted. And because Claire is also a manual wheelchair user and navigated a lot of ableist spaces to come here today, I wanted to take a seat and take up space and honor her. But there is no way that I could stay there for this address. It is insult to injury, the lie.
She just couldn't stay there anymore with all the awful, mean rhetoric that was coming out of Orange Man Bad's mouth. She really didn't say anything, though, that I could make out, per se. Not even sure I'd call it word salad, probably more just gobbledygook. Maybe gobbledygook goes on top of the word salad. And how would this be complete without checking in with our friend from South Central, doesn't live there anymore, but she represents them, Maxine Waters, who I think in her previous life played Aunt Esther from Sanford and Son. Of course, she had to weigh in.
Turned it over to him. And we don't know everything that Elon Musk has done with his high technology ass.
We don't know what Elon's been doing with his high technology ass. If that doesn't spur on an investigation, nothing will.
We don't know what he's being accused of by some, as it may relate to the election. But we're not going to give up. And I really did not like the way he used the tragic incidents and the families that were there, who, of course, appreciated, what they think is their president caring about what happened, to the 12-year-old and to others who were victims.
He was 13, Maxine, but who's counting? And thank God we've got a soothsayer and visionary like you, Maxine. God forbid anybody thinks Trump actually cares about them. You know better. Please be our guiding light, Maxine. I should apologize. That was mean to Aunt Esther.
And we all feel sad and bad for them, but he misused them. He misused them. And what he did was he focused on them instead of focusing on the real issues that we're dealing with now.
He misused them? How did he misuse them, Maxine? Oh, that's right. He misused them by not focusing on the real issues and wasting time with them. Oh, I'm sorry. On their low-tech asses. Do tell. What real issues did he not focus on, Maxine? Please enlighten us. Oh, right. Got it. How dare he misuse anybody for the purpose of trying to fool anybody into thinking he might actually care about them? When we both know he just doesn't, right, Maxine? You know better. All he cares about is getting more money to his friend Elon's high-tech ass. Now, before we move on, I have a question. Have any of these elected officials that I've highlighted here today said anything? Anything? Anything of substance? At all? Bueller? The Democrat Party is in a sad state of affairs right now. I can't say that I'm upset about it. I'm actually rather amazed, to be honest. I think we all knew that the Democrats have gone so far left, or had let themselves be taken so far to the left, the end result is the same, that they lost whatever little bit of common sense that they were holding on to up until, Orange Man Bad came down the escalator. Yes, we know they're not taking the election well. Yes, we know they don't take losing power very well. But I honestly gave them a little bit more credit for brains than they seem to be displaying, at least so far. Now, let's not get all excited and think, it's going to be easy from this point on. They're going to fade away. 4 years is a long time. So before you start thinking they're going to be so far out in the wilderness that they're never going to find their way back, don't let yourself get too excited. But that doesn't mean you can't really enjoy it while it's happening. Just don't get too used to it. Trust me. It's not my first rodeo. Don't go anywhere. Save the best one for last. Adam Schiff is coming up, and trust me, he does not disappoint. Then we're going to touch briefly on the Ukraine and Zelensky situation and what I think is Trump's brilliant strategy.
Jeff will be right back on 1410 WRMN.
As a fan, you know all the important sports cliches. And when you save money by bundling your home and auto with Progressive, you can get out there and give it 110%, even though that's mathematically impossible. And remember, failure is not an option. Well, it's always an option, just not a good one. But you're not worried because you've got ice in your veins. You're on fire. How can both of those things be true at the same time? Well, that's between you and your doctor. So get out there and leave it all on the field. Leave what? Who cares? Just leave it and save with a bundle from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates, other insurers, not available in all states or situations.
Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and I believe everyone should consider a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group to diversify their IRA or 401k. Our nation's problems have been building for the past 50 years, and they're not going away overnight, which is why we must prepare now for a financial collapse that will affect the entire economy. The good news is there's an easy way to do that. Gold is a proven bedrock in almost every kind of economy. To learn more, get a free info kit from my trusted friends at Birch Gold by texting the word PREPARE to 989898. Don't wait until decades of government irresponsibility comes crashing down on your retirement. Get your free info kit on gold IRAs from the Birch Gold Group now. Text PREPARE to the number 989898. That's PREPARE to 989898.
If you're in charge of purchasing coring bits or diamond tooling for an engineering or construction firm, you're going to want to hear this. 4Core Biz delivers a critical missing component in the marketplace. Our team of trained experts makes sure you get a full valuation of your actual coring needs to ensure you're getting the optimum performance out of all of your core bits and machines. Because a cheap core bit is just that, cheap. It costs less but bores far less holes and costs more per hole. Our bits cost a little more but bore you a whole lot more holes. 4 times more, in fact. Give us a shot and we'll send you your bits before you even pay us a dime. Visit us at 4corebiz.com. That's the number 4, COREBIZ.com. Or call 888-831-9557. 4Core Biz.
Here at the Jeff Michaels Show, we just love whataboutisms, the number one tool for flushing out liberal lefty hypocrisy.
That's why they came up with the term in the first place, because they hate it so much. It flushes out and exposes their hypocrisy, of which they are chock full of, as you know. Speaking of which, probably the king of all hypocrites and everything bad is Adam Schiff. I believe this guy is literally a pathological liar. Not literally like when people use it when they're not really meaning literally, they're just saying it for effect. I mean literally. Either that or he's as evil as they get. Let's listen to the good senator as he graces us from his lovely home.
So if you made the decision tonight not to watch the 1 hour and 40-minute State of the Union, I have a few things to say. First of all, good decision. Good decision. You would have been better off watching an hour and 40 minutes of the home shopping channel than watching that. There was nothing in this address for you. So what did he talk about for an hour and 40 minutes? Well, first of all, he talked about himself. He talked about himself an awful lot. And of course, it was along the lines of he's the greatest this and doing the greatest that.
Got it. How typical. Touting achievements is talking about himself. I guess maybe in a sense that's true. But at least he's telling the truth. Or did he get to you when he brought up all the lawfare and asked you how did that all work out? I'll bet it pissed you off. At least I hope so. And yes, I've heard you drone on and on about the 34 felonies and the real estate fraud and all those things, but you've got a prestigious law degree, so we both know that you know full well what was going on. This is the best you can do? With that big brain of yours, Adam? You think the world isn't on to y'all? Look who's sitting in the White House. Maybe the better strategy at this point would be to just shut up.
Of all time of any president, he even compared himself to George Washington. I kid you not.
Oh, is that really what he did,
That
Adam?
was interspersed with lies about Social Security, lies about immigrants, and lies about everything else.
Like what, Adam? What lies specifically did he tell? We're all ears.
Which was interspersed with, he's the greatest victim in the world.
There comes the I know you are, but what am I? They all use it all the time, including Shifty Schiff. Trump was calling himself the victim again.
He's victimized this way, and he was unfairly treated this way. That was interspersed with occasional references to people in the gallery. There were occasional instances of unintended humor, such as when he attacked unelected bureaucrats, not realizing, of course, that the biggest unelected bureaucrat was sitting in the gallery, and that was Elon Musk.
Of course, if you look up the word bureaucrat in the English liberal English dictionary, it means anybody who's been appointed in government that does anything we don't like. They have a lot of words they've incorporated that we all thought means something else, but turns out it actually means something they don't like.
But apart from that, nothing in it for you.
So just listen to what he's trying to communicate to his vast audience on social media. Don't pay attention. Don't learn for yourself. Don't ask questions. Don't investigate anything. Don't actually watch the speech or listen to any interviews or ask any questions. No, just listen to me. I'll tell you how to think. He carried on that same message later that night on NBC News.
When he was talking about America as the victim of all these other countries, really you reminded me that he views the whole world through the prism of victimhood. This, born into wealth guy considers himself the biggest victim. He considers America nothing but a victim. For a party that decries victimhood, I've never seen so much appeal to being victims.
Here we go again. I know you are, but what am I? Can you believe the projection from these people? It's astonishing. The Republican Party is the party that decries victimhood? You're kidding, right, Adam? You don't actually think we're that dumb, do you? That people are just going to listen to whatever you say and go along with it? What could possibly give you the idea that there actually is anyone out there like that? Oh, right. It worked before.
The United States is the most powerful country in the world.
Yeah. Most powerful country, richest country.
By this international rules-based order that we helped to create. The alliance with NATO has been incredibly beneficial to our own security. He is tearing all of that down. He's picking fights with our allies like Canada, like the Ukraine. And for what? What does it serve the United States?
See, now here's just another perfect example of why everything that comes out of the mouth of everyone on the left is complete projection. They only see the world through their own eyes, and 99.9% of the time, A plus B doesn't equal C or D. It equals, I don't know, something that ends in ism. So one of their many tools of projection takes over automatically. I know you are, but when am I? Remember that being a tactic from back when you were like post-toddler age? They do it all the time. Now, don't forget, we're talking about Adam Schiff right now, accusing Donald Trump of playing the victim. None of their politics, their political thoughts, ideas, preferences, paradigms can exist without victims. And no, Senator Schiff, President Trump is not playing the victim by bringing up all the lawfare crap that you and your party tried to shower upon him. If anybody was actually the victim after all the lawfare BS you and your pathetic party put him through, it's President Trump. But I can assure you he's never thought of himself as a victim, not even for a second, ever. And by the way, who ends up screaming victim after it's all said and done anyway? This psychopath. All right, let's talk for a couple of minutes about Ukraine and Zelensky and all things related thereto. As I've already alluded to a number of times, at least once I can remember today, I think that Trump's approach to solving and ending the Ukraine war is masterful. And really the best and only way to get this whole thing solved. Now, I know I'm starting to sound a lot like an always Trumper, and trust me, I'm not. The first thing that happened as soon as Zelensky stormed out of there or got kicked out of there, however you want to look at it, next day he shows up in London, riding the Range Rover into 10 Downing Street. And by afternoon, all the European heads of state are lining up and coming to Ukraine's defense. Screw Donald Trump and the big bad United States. We'll help you. Wasn't that what was supposed to happen all along? I mean, it is in your backyard, after all, not ours. You just expected we were going to come and take care of business the whole time, the whole way, no matter what? Oh, right. Yeah, that's what the whole thing's been about. That's why you hated Trump last time. He thinks it's about time they all pay their fair share. I'm sorry, that's Bernie Sanders. That's Brooklyn. Trump's got more of a Queens accent. Like when he says huge for huge, that's Queens. So all the European leaders lined up and said they're gonna get behind and help Ukraine, and they're gonna have Zelensky's back. And of course, the Democrats came right out and showed how this is another example of how Trump's made us the laughingstock, and he's no longer a leader. He sits back. So I actually heard somebody say he leads from behind. Wasn't that originally a term we had for Obama? So all they do is project. Hopefully, once Zelensky gets past his ego, he'll realize that Trump's idea about partnering with them on the precious minerals thing is brilliant. Not only does it get us connected to something that we desperately need and don't have in abundance at all here, and helps them start to bring in income from a natural resource that they at the present time don't have enough technology or other assets to help take advantage of those natural resources. So we create a partnership that works for everybody, which, by the way, is generally the goal when you form a partnership, for everybody to benefit. So we now have a great source for something we desperately need. They now have a great way to speed up the rebuilding of their country. And we can put troops there to protect it all, and Russia can't do anything about it because we're just protecting our investment. It's brilliant. And everybody saves face, including Putin. And yes, you have to let Putin save face. That's the way it is. We're not going to go in and take him out. And that's just reality. And by the way, in case you didn't hear, at the end of the day yesterday, Friday, Trump threatened to up sanctions to Russia to the max if they don't go along with the peace deal. And or if they keep sending bombs over and taking advantage of this downtime, so to speak. And Zelensky says, we're not interested in truce. Really? So you want the fighting to keep going? Last time I looked, parts of Ukraine didn't look too much different than Gaza right now. And Ukraine certainly isn't blessed with any kind of natural waterfront or beachfront or ocean access, as is Gaza. So all the European leaders are starting to get in line and saying they'll pony up, and it's time they take the lead. And I'm sure Trump is happy to let them think they did. For now. Until something starts to happen, then he'll take full credit. Trust me on that. Another reality, Crimea ain't going back. As much as it should, as much as there was a time where we all actually thought it might, it's not going to. Obama let him have it. He's now connected the bridge to it. It's staying. But you know what? If you get out of this, just putting that in writing, now that becomes permanent part of Russia. He's out. Our military comes in, and we start this whole natural mineral business going. Can you think of any better outcome for either and or, including us, the rest of the world? And I have one more question on that. What if Kamala had been elected? And or what if Biden somehow made it through and got reelected? Would any of this be happening? You and I both know it wouldn't be. We would just be feeding the kitty, just kind of like the guys on the old ships back in the Titanic days used to feed the coal into the engines. Kind of the same thing. And what about Gaza right now? Gotten most of the hostages back? Have a few left? Yes, it's been a heartbreaking, gut-wrenching experience to learn that there's been even more barbaric crap that these animals pulled. But it's movement. We're getting towards a resolution. What do you think would be happening now if Kamala had been elected or if Biden was still in there? And by the way, not only was Biden not getting anything going, not only was he not feeding the machine like he was in Ukraine with a blank check, he was holding back Israel. He didn't know which side to go on. Of course, he didn't know which way to walk to the bathroom most of the time either. Trump's been in office now, what, 7 weeks? Seems like a year already. In a good way. I guess there is a God. Thank God. And with that, another hour flies by. Thank you for being here. Have a great week. I'll see you right here next week, 1 o'clock Central.
That's it for the Jeff Michaels Show. Jeff will be back next week, same time, same station. In the meantime, keep it right on 1410 WRMN.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Ivana Brooks. I'm running for Elgin City Council because I have a passion for people and politics. I care deeply for this city, and the city of Elgin is my home, and I want to see all of our people thrive, prosper, and grow for generations to come. I want to lay the groundwork for this city, championing business development and economic prosperity, improving community relations and empowering our youth, and maneuvering our mental health and substance abuse crisis, because the people of Elgin deserve to have a government that is run by the people, for the people. So join me and please support by voting for me, Cecilia Ivana Brooks, on Tuesday, April 1st for Elgin City Council. Thank you. God bless America, and may God bless the city of Elgin. Paid for by the Believers for Cecilia Brooks.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 2 o'clock.
As the 2025 tax season unfolds, the Better Business Bureau is warning the public about the various schemes that con artists will employ in the coming weeks to steal your money, personal identity information, and peace of mind. According to the Internal Revenue Service, taxpayers lost $5.5 billion due to tax scams and fraud in 2023. This year, the tax filing deadline is the traditional April 15th. So here are some important tax time tips. Check out businesses before you hire them. The best way to avoid tax ID theft is to file your taxes as early as possible. Check out websites carefully and make sure you access the actual IRS website when filing your taxes electronically. Be wary of tax preparer offering fast refunds or large returns. If you get a written notice from the IRS about a duplicate tax return or any notice that additional taxes are owned, contact the IRS immediately. Don't give out your social security number unless you are 100% sure you are dealing with someone you trust. A message from the Better Business Bureau and your friends here at WRMN. Visit their website at bbb.org.